You know, it's people like you that have made Queens the greatest county and the greatest city in the world, because you could be anywhere tonight. You could be out enjoying this beautiful weather, you could be home watching, I don't know, American Idol, whatever's on tonight, I know the game is on later, but not. You're out here listening to probably boring political speeches, but because you care, because you're out here, you care about your families, you care about your community, you want to make an informed choice on borough president and a lot of other issues, and you're out tonight. So that's what I love so much, one of the things I love so much about Queens. My name is Peter Vallone. I bring greetings from the land of the north. If anybody watches Game of Thrones or anything, but the land of the north. And I represent above 34th Avenue, and I have for 11 and a half years now. My father did for about 27 years before that. I'm chairman of the Public Safety Committee, one small correction, I'm for a while now. And so I have this law and order type reputation, which I don't have any problem with. It's worse reputations to have than that. But there's a lot more. So I like when I come out to small groups like this, I like to tell a little bit about myself. First of all, I'm a dad. I have 2 daughters. I used to say young daughters, but now one is in Notre Dame and the other just graduated St. Francis Prep and is on the way to Notre Dame. So I'll be passing out a collection cup because it's $50,000 each for a year. It's crazy. You have kids on the way to college, start saving. But the best kids in the world, and they went to public schools growing up, so I know everything there is to know about schools, what works, what doesn't work, because I am a dad of 2 girls, went to public school and private school. I'm a professional, I should say professional, well, I'm a musician. I play 4 instruments, bass, guitar, piano, drums, so I love the arts, and that's how I work my way through school, and that's why I'm turning the diving pool up in Astoria Park that's been decrepit for 30 years now into an outdoor amphitheater, so people will have a place to put on performances and they won't have to continually look for church basements and things to play in. I am an animal rights advocate. I passed the bill which says you can't tie up your animal for days at a time, and I'm working on a bill right now which we just had a hearing on, and I had an op-ed in the Daily News yesterday called the Animal Abuse Registry. If you abuse an animal, you go on this registry, just like the gun offender registry, which I also work for the city. You commit a gun offense, you go on a registry. Abuse an animal, you go on this registry, you can't get another animal. Right now, you can torture an animal, get convicted, and go out and get 10 more animals from a shelter or a pet store or anything. This would put you on a list, and you get a year in jail if you get on this list and you get an animal. And I'm also an environmentalist. As many of you know, it was my lawsuit that shut down the Charles Coletti plant up on 20th Avenue, which was the dirtiest in New York State. And that was even before I was elected. I wrote the plastic bag recycling law. I'm working now on a styrofoam recycling law, but it's been a passion of mine for a long time. And well, I can occasionally be seen riding up and down Vernon on my Harley, stopping in at Malabar, and my chiropractor is right here also on Vernon and 48. I keep changing the name of his place. I think it's Institute for something now. So there's a lot about me people don't know, and so I'm not just this little guy. But I do have that background. I do. Before I was elected, I was a prosecutor for 6 years in Manhattan. Now I've been public safety chair for 11 years, working very closely with Ray Kelly to bring crime down another 40% since 2002. But we need to stay vigilant because, as I've warned about for a long time, the crime rate has stopped dropping at the rate it used to. It pretty much leveled off, and some crimes are actually on the way up, as I've been warned, because the police force has dwindled from 41,000 to under 35,000, and that's a serious problem that I've been advocating against for a long time. And I've been the #1 advocate for more police because you don't see them anymore. You don't see the beat cop walking around. Remember the bike cops we used to have? You don't see the bike cop anywhere anymore because they just don't have them in these precincts, in the 114 and then the 115 and all these precincts around here because they've taken them. They've taken them, bring them to Brooklyn, and they just don't have them. In 1991, crime was 80% higher than it is today. And Brian Watkins was stabbed on the subway, if you remember that. So I don't know if any of you were old enough, but and it was that crime that had my father come up with the Safe Street, Safe City plan. That increased the police force from 31,000 to 41,000. And it was those cops that the ensuing mayors and police commissioners used to bring crime down 80%. And it taught us a lesson that a lot of people are forgetting. It's safe streets that allow the economy to flourish, that allow us to perform all these other services like senior centers and libraries and schools and things like that. But first you have to have those safe streets, and that's my #1 priority. And as borough president, it will continue. The other thing about my background is that before I was elected for 10 years, I ran my family's small law firm. Still there since 1932. It's been at the same location underneath the L on 31st Street between 23rd Avenue and Ditmars. And it's a small firm, 5 people or so. We do wills and things like that. And we always have. We haven't branched out because we like it that way. But I'm a small business person, so I know, and there's a lot of small business people here, a lot of new businesses coming in. I know the hell that they're going through, the city's putting them through, with taxes and water rates and fines and enforcement and letter grading systems and you name it. Every day they're passing a new law at City Hall. It's telling you who to hire, who you can't hire, how many sick days to give, how much to pay. Just stay the hell away from our businesses, right? That's my attitude. We know how to make the money. We know how to hire people. We know how to employ people. We know how to pay, to make sure those taxes are paid for all these other things we can do. So I am an advocate of smaller government and letting our businesses actually rejuvenate our economy. Running for borough president, as Brent said, and there's a lot of good people running. Queens is very lucky. Good friends of mine like Leroy Comrie is running, and a couple of others. So Queens is lucky to have some good choices. Brooklyn has one guy running. I don't know how this. Scott Stringer's coming, I think. One guy running for control, right? But Queensboro president's race, you got some choices. But that's what sets me apart. Everyone in the race, including myself, has a lot of government experience, and we're all very competent in what we do. But no one in this race has any private experience, any business experience, any experience keeping the streets of Queens safe. I bring that to this race. And I'm going to bring it to the borough president's office. Those will continue to be my priorities, to make sure all of us are safe, and to make sure that our businesses are bring Queens back. I mean, our businesses are the backbone of Queens County. And it's going to be our businesses that rejuvenate this economy, that help us after Sandy. We've got we thank God weren't hit that bad by Sandy, but what's going on down there is still outrageous. I mean, they still don't have protection. It's now been, I don't know how long, but they've come up to me. They said they want us to rebuild the businesses, the homes, but there's nothing stopping the next storm from coming. Another storm, if we rebuild this stuff, there's still nothing there protecting us. But Sandy said I could talk for an hour on that topic, but I won't. And as borough president, I'm going to bring things to this office that the other borough presidents are doing right now. Like Scott Stringer will be here. Great guy, good friend of mine, but he does a lot of policy. I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring in experts on Sandy. I'm going to bring experts on our school system, experts on safety. Experts on airport noise, you name it, and we're going to create policy for Queens County. Ruben Diaz, I don't agree with him a lot, but he's a friend of mine, and he's from the Bronx, and he's still involved in legislation at City Hall. In fact, he and I are working together to extend my gun offender registry statewide. I'm going to still do that. I'm going to still be involved in City Hall and the laws of City Hall and making sure that we have tough graffiti laws. I've been the #1 anti-graffiti advocate anywhere, pretty much. The New York Times called me the man who hates graffiti, and I think the Times also said that I am to graffiti vandals what Rudy Giuliani was to squeegee men. So I'm going to continue to do it. And I've had death threats, you name it. They put my name up in a giant curse up on a billboard. But I'm going to continue to do that. I'm still going to be involved in City Hall. Well, one of the other things I'm going to be involved in is getting our Queensboro Bridge back. That would be nice.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, it was an outrage when they took it from us, and nobody stood up for Queens except me. Now, it's not the most important issue in our lives, but it's a good example of what a borough president should do. I did it, or I was just representing Little Pasture Astoria, Little North of here, as I said, and I led the fight, but no one else stood up with me, nobody. And I think it was an outrage. They would never, ever rename the Brooklyn Bridge. Can you imagine? Marty Markowitz would still be handcuffed to the Brooklyn Bridge if they tried to rename the Brooklyn Bridge. They would never rename the Manhattan Bridge. But the Queensboro Bridge, that was okay to sell for endorsement. That was okay to rename. I don't have a problem with that. Koch was a good friend of my father's, friend of mine, always endorsed me. I said I had a compromise. Right next to City Hall is a beautiful building called the Municipal Building. That's what it's called. When you go over the Brooklyn Bridge, it's right at the right. I said, let's name that the Edward I. Koch Municipal Building. He's known for Manhattan anyway, not for Queens. The mayor and the speaker just completely ignored me. The rest of the city council put their heads in the sand. You know why? Because they were threatened, just as I was threatened. And sure enough, because I led that fight, I was punished. They cut my funding by 60%. They eliminated the Peter Vallone Scholarship from the kids at CUNY who had this Peter Vallone Scholarship. It was named after my father. But I don't stop talking about it. And I'm going to continue to. And as borough president, We'll get a new mayor, we'll get a new speaker, and I'm going to continue to try to get that bridge back for us, because that's our bridge. That's not the 59th Street, it's not the Ed Koch Bridge, it's the Queensboro Bridge. It's a big plaque on it right now. And thank you, sir. Thank you. It's not the most important thing. There are a lot of Queens issues that I led the way on. When the Christmas blizzard hit us, I was the first one out there demanding that we be plowed, having the hearings, making sure that we did get plowed every other time. When the Northwest Queens blackout hit, I'm not sure if it extended this far down, but it was pretty close. 200,000 people were out without power. I was the one taking on the mayor, taking on Con Ed. When they took our civic virtue statue away from Borough Hall, worked to Brooklyn to be fixed. I was the one leading the fight against that. I led the fight against the soccer stadium, taking up parkland in Queens. I think that's outrageous. Thank you. I think it's outrageous giving parkland to a sheet for $1. 14 acres of parkland. That's crazy. I don't mind. I would like to have a soccer stadium in Queens. Not there. Let's find a better place. Let's look for Flushing Airport. Let's look at places like that. Let's look at Chase Stadium, City Field. So-called Queensboro, so-called the Tri-Borough, Chase Stadium. I was the one who said, let's play there. It's a beautiful stadium. It's not used all that much by Met fans anymore. So I am a Met fan. But let's get some soccer in there, so we can. Why build a stadium right next to the City Field? I understand it's not perfect for soccer, but hey, I'm not going to give up my parkland. So there's been a lot of issues that I've already been leading the fight when it comes to Queens County. I bring this background to the borough president's race that no one else does, the keeping our streets safe background and the business background. I mean, I could talk for the rest of the evening on schools and senior centers and all the other issues and transportation in Queens County that are facing us here, but I know that you don't want to hear that. We go on for another hour. But if you want, Brett, I'll take some questions, or you can throw me out, whatever works for you.
I want to ask some questions.
I have about another 5-10 minutes. So.
I'm just going to start off just quickly, because a lot of people don't know what the Queensboro president's duty is, what they can do. I mean, some has to do with land use. What does the Queensboro president do, and how can you advocate?
That's a darn good question. It's not as powerful as it used to be. And the reason is because of my father, which leads to some interesting dinner conversation. But it still has a great deal of power. It has appointments to all the community boards, and they're so important on community boards. It has a lot of capital funding. 5% of the capital funding comes through the borough president's office, so we can provide that to the schools and senior centers and libraries and parks, which are very important right now. And it has, but the main thing it has is it is the advocate for Queens County. It is the pulpit to speak from. And I've been doing that just as a local councilman. And I would be one of 5 borough presidents who would be able to advocate. We don't get our fair share of senior funding. We definitely don't get our fair share of library funding. We have the most customers. We do not get anywhere near the most money for our libraries. The Queensboro Bridge, the Civic Virtue Statue. Queens is constantly taken advantage of because there is no one right now in that position with the voice that I have, and who would be an advocate for Queens County. So we do have the land use, a lot of land use power. We have advisory opinions on every development project that comes through, and I'm going to develop the same way I develop Astoria. I mean, I am not in favor of throwing up buildings every place we have a spot. That's not why people come to Queens. We're not Manhattan. That's not me. I rezoned Astoria so that we would stop skyscrapers from being built where they were inappropriate. In certain locations they are appropriate, but not when you have 2-family home, 2-family home, 10-family home, 2-family home. That's wrong. And I rezoned Astoria to stop that. And that's going to be my priority as borough president when it comes to land use, making sure Queens stays Queens. That's why we love it. That's why we moved here. That's why we live here. So we've got all those powers still. We're not as powerful as we used to be. But that office is what you make it. And I think from what I said earlier, that I will make it into something that will be a powerful voice for Queens.
Okay, wonderful. Any questions?
Yeah.
Sure. Arthur?
One of the important parts of the Queensboro President's Office is economic development. So I'm sure you have some thoughts about tourism and other things that the current Queensboro President has been doing some good things with. So could you tell us what your thinking is about where you're going to take us with economic development?
Well, the main thing about economic, first of all, I'm not going to say here that I have better ideas than everybody else when it comes to economic development. I'm going to bring in the experts. I'm going to bring in your business association and all the other ones to sit down and say, what do we need to do? But what I can promise you is that everything will be looked at through the eyes of a business person. That's what makes me different. That's not happening at the city council. It's not happening at any level. Everybody now is just looking at it through social progress eyes or whatever, you know, the income equality. We weren't built on income equality. That's not what this country is about. We're built on equality of opportunity, not income. And I'm a business person, and I'm always going to be one. I'm going to look at everything through the eyes of a business person. I'm going to bring in all of our business community, and we're going to sit down and we're going to come up with a way to help our businesses. Tourism, absolutely right. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to have people traveling from Europe to come to Queens. They will be coming to Manhattan, but we got to grab them when they're here. They're landing in Queens County, and then they're traveling through Queens County and go to Manhattan. Let's get them. Let's have things up in the airport that talk about, you know, the fact that you may not be able to travel to Egypt, but we have little Egypt right here. You may not be able to travel to Korea, but we have little Koreatown right here. Look at Lunar City. It's one of the coolest places around. I know. That's why I drive with my motorcycle. But we got to get people to come here and stay here. So there are ways to do that. We got to work with Manhattan to get our fair share of tourism money, which we don't. But the most important thing is not for me to sit here and tell you that for the next 8 years, this is what I'm going to do. It's to tell you that everything's going to be looked at as a business person, and I'm the only one who has that experience. I guess he's calling, and then I don't want to get in trouble.
Assuming you're a Queensborough president, what issues specifically to Hunters Point, LIC area do you see as most important for development here, or certain things that may not be in other parts of Queens, but are big issues in this area?
Well, that's one of the reasons I come to places like this to learn about the big issues. But there's been a lot of development here, and a lot of it has been appropriate here because this is one of the few locations left in Queens where you had warehouses and you had areas that needed development. They don't exist in a lot of other places. I'm not for shoehorning things, but it seems to be coming along rather nicely here. I haven't, unfortunately, been involved in what's been going on prior to today, so I'm no expert. You guys are. But as I said, my plan is going to be to responsibly develop. And if we're going to be putting buildings in, we have to make sure there's an infrastructure. We have to make sure there are schools. We have to make sure there are hospitals. We have to make sure there are parks.
Transportation?
Roads. The transportation. All right, I'm going to talk about it because I could go on for like an hour about transportation in Queens. I mean, it's outrageous. Again, we don't get our fair share. One of the reasons is Albany took away our commuter tax, which took away $500 million a year, which used to go to our transportation. But we don't have, I mean, they took the R line from Queens, as you know, and the train system in Queens, you can't get to, it's not quite the same here as it is in Eastern Queens. You've got to take a train and 2 buses to try to get to Manhattan from Eastern Queens. You can't get from northern to southern Queens. There's no mass transit that's going from north to south. You got to drive your car. You try to drive your car, and there's bottlenecks all over the place. I mean, I go to my kids are in Hollis Hills, Queens, so I drive to Queens every day. You try to get to Eastern Queens from here. You're going on the Grand Central. You know where it splits up to the right for the Van Wyck and the Jackie Robinson. Every night, every time of day, that is backed up completely, which is dangerous because as you go to the right to the Jackie Robinson, the entire highway goes up a ramp and into the stop sign. Well, who the hell designed that, and how has that been allowed to stay here till this day, that the entire highway stops at a stop sign? So we've got to get somebody in there who's going to advocate for our roads, for our buses, for our trains. It hasn't happened. We've got to get that commuter tax back. That hasn't happened. So we can get some funding to do these things, because everybody can talk about we need a new train line, we need a new bus line, but if you don't have the funding, it's not going to happen. What do you think? What do you think?
Well, I mean, transportation is one. Obviously, development, whether on, on Jackson Avenue, what's going on, and Rock Road is pretty much built everywhere they can already, but there's still a lot of more potential for development. Transportation. Yeah, just how
you think you need more here in London City, or is
transportation or
no development?
In certain areas, yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people probably feel differently, but certainly Jackson Avenue area, there's I think plenty of potential, and more people in the correct areas, could be good. I'm all in favor of development in the proper areas as long as it's not overcrowding. And
I'm going to look at everything piece by piece, and I'm going to make sure that I work with the local community boards and with the local groups like these, because that's what's important. The people in the area know a lot better than I know what's appropriate for you.
Right, but development is going on with that. Any transportation thoughts? I mean, the 7 train's crazy, and I know Jimmy Van Brune's office tried to get direct buses, and the MTA doesn't allow it. So it's
try to don't take the trains tonight because if it's shut down for
yeah,
like 2 hours, you probably know that. Somebody did a suicide jump on Broadway. Yeah, it's even uglier. It was body parts on the street. It was pretty ugly on Broadway and on 31st Street. So don't take your transportation tonight. But
fortunately, I can walk now.
Brett, I'll take one or two more, and then...
Sure. And I think as you hit on it before, I mean, one of the big concerns is infrastructure, because there's more and more people coming in, but do we have appropriate sewer system? Do we have enough, for the 7 line? Do we have enough schools? Do we have enough of this stuff? Yeah, a lot of people are coming in, but we don't know if we have the infrastructure to support it. Okay, a couple quick questions. Sorry, Terry?
Let me do one more, because I had 7:30.
Oh, I had my hand
The Forest Hills Bay. Two more.
Okay, two.
And I know you won't forget, we need a senior center.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've built more senior housing in Astoria than probably anywhere else in the city. I mean, you probably, you come over to Triborough, you see on the right, there's the Doris Towers there. That was provided that was made with funding that I provided pretty much alone. And it was 500 units. And we've done so many other units. One is called, one was done on the Boys and Girls Club, and it's actually named for my family, the Vallone Senior Residence, which my father thought that he was going to live in because it was called the Vallone Senior Residence. So we had to change the name. It was Vallone Residence for Seniors, so it didn't look like it was his. But that's my priority, because our seniors built this town. They deserve, before anyone else, the right to stay here in a place that they can afford. And not only do they deserve to stay here, but they deserve a quality of living with senior centers. And I've been at the forefront of the fight every year to save the money for senior centers.
And we'll fight right with you.
Okay, he's got to move, so quick, Pete.
Okay, quick statement and then a question. Statement on your point about how Queens is such a diverse borough, more so than most of the other boroughs. And now we haven't taken advantage of that. And to that end, we've been meeting, and when I say we, there's been a group of diverse ethnic leaders of nationalities. So I'm trying to deal